Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. So in this video I'd like to show you how you can propagate your own mint plants from cuttings. So I started off in my dad's garden. He has some mint growing in one of his borders, and this is kind of early in the summertime. The mint is just starting to get going, and I thought these leaves would be ideal to cut. So just using a pair of scissors, I'm going to cut these. Then I'm going to remove most of the lower leaves because we don't need those. They will take energy from the plant, and we want the energy to go into the root production. So I'm just going to make a nice clean cut at the bottom and remove most of the lower leaves. And there we have two cuttings ready for the water. Then I added the cuttings to a glass of water. So it's been about 10 days since I took these cuttings from my dad's garden, and I brought them home and transferred them into a cup of water. So it's been about 10 days and there's some new growth on the tops here already, and they have started to sprout little roots. So I'm just going to give you a look now. You can see there's a little root there. And that's just coming out of one of the nodes. So when I cut the leaves off away from these nodes, I just left the bottoms of the leaves so that I didn't damage the nodes. I didn't want to pull them off, and since then they've just fallen off, and I've given the water a couple of changes. There's another little root around the side there, but so far so good. This one has also started to sprout some little roots. You can just see at the bottom there's a tiny one appearing. So I'm going to give this about another week, and then we should have some really nice roots.
So here are the cuttings. Kind of a few weeks later I kind of left them and I went away on another little holiday and forgot about them, and since then some algae got onto the roots here at the bottom, so there hasn't been much more development. I've changed the water again. If you do get algae, just I've got some here, I'll get that off. Use a brush and just brush it off, because the roots won't develop if the algae is on them. Doesn't look too good at the moment, but I'm going to go ahead and plant it anyway because I'm hopeful that this is still going to grow.
So now I'm going to plant them out in the garden in a pot. I'm using some rough soil out the garden here. It doesn't really matter what kind of soil you use as long as it has a decent amount of drainage. I could then add the cuttings to the pot and just gently push the soil around them. Then I gave them a really good watering and left them alone. So here is an update a good while later, probably a month or so after. Your cutting should go much smoother and quicker than this if you remember to change the water in the glass. I kind of forgot. I went away on a holiday, and a lot of the algae damaged the roots, so they had to redevelop. So there were still roots on there when I put it in the mud, in the dirt, but you can see this one has died. But you do get that sometimes. But this one, a lot of the original leaves have died off, but just this is a good example of what not to do, but it's also a good example of patience. So it might look dead, But if you look closely, you can see some new little tiny leaves developing. There's two there at the top and there's some down there, so give it another couple of weeks, this should be flourishing. We've had a lot of hot weather which hasn't helped, very hot weather here in the UK, but I think this one's going to be fine and it will be growing nicely in the next few weeks. So another update, and you can see now that those little tiny leaves that were developing are growing nicely. You can see the dead ones, but this plant is alive, the stem is green, so patience is key in this kind of situation. Don't give up hope too soon when you're cutting your cuttings and you think they might be dead, because here you go. So in another week or two they should be really out. So we're now at the end of August, and the mint cutting, the leaves, the small leaves that you saw a moment ago, have now really developed, and there's lots of leaves on there, lots of green. That is growing fantastically now. I've been watering it every few days and it's doing great. So out of those two cuttings we got one that completely took root and is now growing brand new leaves. Had to get it through a bit of a hard time, but it came through in the end. So it just goes to show that patience does work when you're trying to propagate plants from cuttings. So for the winter time I'll keep it covered just to make sure that it comes back up next year, and next year it should grow very fast and become quite a big plant. So there you have it, that is how you can grow mint plants from a cutting. So that's about it for this video. In the end my cutting survived and it's growing new leaves now. It's growing quite fast and it's healthy, and next year it should grow into a nice big bushy plant, and I'll be able to take plenty of cuttings from that and cut leaves off to make mint sauce and things like that. So I hope this video has shown you kind of what to do and sometimes what not to do, and also to have patience when you're trying to propagate plants from cuttings, because sometimes when you think that all hope is lost and the cutting is dead, it isn't. And I've showed you on this video that my cutting looked pretty much dead, but there was hope and now it's growing nicely. So if you did find this video useful, please remember to like and also consider subscribing for more gardening videos. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.